The Otomo forces completed their consolidation of territory around Kyoto, smashing multiple armies to secure not only their defensive prospects, but to open up chances to advance further. Popular resistance to both them and Christianity dramatically slowed their progress down, but even with long delays, the preparations for a full-scale counterattack by the Takeda had not been completed. Instead, it was an assortment of much smaller coalition factions doing all the fighting. Their next move was to pull most of the Otomo army near Kyoto into one huge engagement at Edo Castle in the contested fief of Sofu. You did the right thing in coming to consult me, General. That was the Shogun's wish. He stated that you are in command of this front. He told me I was to pursue Tsugutsura. I think Lord Yoshishige intends to investigate that matter, my lord. For now, we must focus on the 10,000 wayward souls that approach. Indeed. If they wish to attack before we reinforce the castle, they'll need to advance their vanguard as soon as they can. Likely there will be 5,000 at the most available to fight. I do not wish to alarm you, my lord, but the enemy have used a most novel tactic. They have brought up their army by various roads all at once, and so their vanguard is in fact everything. All 10,000. The banners are accounted for, sadly. And yet this brings up an opportunity. Instead of crushing only half their men on our walls, we shall be able to get them all. General, I've been present at the assaults of countless castles. If they have 10,000 men there before we arrive, we have to go right now. Return to your men and make for the west gate. I'll head east. That garrison won't last an hour without us. You underestimate the resolve of the righteous, my lord. I don't at all. I know they will end up fighting to the death for... Well, it will certainly be for nothing if you don't get moving. Welcome back to Barbarian Masters, where we've got this gigantic battle ahead of us, and things are going to be harder than I expected, because I forgot about a caveat to the rule about only having 40 units on the field at once. It's per faction, not per side. That means we're actually going to be facing 80 enemy units with our 40, many of which are on the edges of the map and quite far away from our central position, so that's not an ideal start. The enemy are being nice here. They're sending generals to attack my Great Guard Cav, who they can't possibly beat, so we'll be killing some enemy officers early on. First it was that one there, and then immediately after he died, another one came in. This time he did actually try to go for Kobyukawa instead of the anti-cavalry cavalry, so that was a better choice, but of course the anti-cav cav are right behind there, so soon they'll come in to finish that off. In goes another enemy cav unit there to that slaughter. That's going to be a little victory out on the edge of the battlefield. Meanwhile in the centre we're just waiting for the enemy to make their attack. Our castle is full of low quality Ashigaru troops, and the enemy are attacking with mostly low quality Ashigaru troops as well. They just have absolutely loads of them. In particular, they have quite a lot of archers, probably 10 units at the least, just standing outside. And now they're going to be able to do the tactic that I usually do when attacking castles, just absolutely destroy everything inside with arrows before you commit your melee forces. And because the castle's quite small, I can't do anything about it. If the castle's big enough, you can fall back to the other side and draw the archers in and then counterattack them in melee. Didn't happen in this case. Tried to use some advanced cav there to take down some bow samurai, but got ambushed and had to run back. This is Kurokawa's army coming in from the west, or part of it I should say. He also found that an enemy officer was quite willing to rush into the fight and get himself killed, so that was nice. Had an unfortunate case of a skirmish forward event from some bow samurai there who just ran to meet the charge rather than running away. I found that weird glitches and difficult movement orders that mess up seem to happen quite a lot when the frame rate's very low, because the orders you give don't always go in on a frame that's actually working, and you get weird effects as a result, so it's a bit of a nightmare to fight. But anyway, Kobyukawa there was blocked by a couple of enemy units, so he can't get close to the castle right now, but he should be able to take them down even with his very limited numbers coming in from that direction. Inside, the first enemy units are starting to engage in melee after climbing up, so these Ashigaru archers probably won't have the best time against those Katana Ashigaru. The nearby samurai archers are going to be left alone for most of the battle, so that's pretty useful. They'll keep shooting down at enemies as they advance. Over here, the enemy are attacking with their mass Ashigaru, and we're going to counter with the exact same thing, only we're going to be in Yari Wall, so we should do a bit better. However, those arrows are still coming in, as you can see, and we're taking enormous losses. We probably lost half our men before the fighting really started, thanks to all of these arch units just standing here, and there's really nothing we can do about that until our reinforcements can get to that area, but they're all just being blocked. Single units, or even small groups of units, just continue to attack the men we had approaching the castle. So here we can see Kurokawa having a pretty easy fight with his samurai bringing down Ashigaru, but it's just buying time for the enemy. Not sure if the AI is actually deliberately using this as a tactic. I think the units are just scripted to attack things, and it happens to be that we're getting too close to the edge of the enemy formation and kiting things away from it. So they're stopping us from having an effective route to the castle gates, which are both on the south side. There are Turkios having to withdraw from battle since they're now being chased unopposed by Ashigaru, so that's pretty annoying. Back inside, we've got a kind of favourable situation here, where I managed to form this weird semicircle of Yari walls, which was just cutting enemy infantry down as they were pushed into this slaughter. That looks pretty good, although we've also lost most of our own men in order to achieve this, and the enemy archers are still going to be at large, so that can only last so long. Soon those tight formations of Yari Ashigaru will be destroyed. Still had these reserve units back here that I was hoping to save until much later, but because they were just being killed by archers, I decided to just throw everything into this blob. You can see my semicircle has been expanded by the enemy's mass, and now we're about to run out of men. The Yari walls are breaking and it's becoming straight fights where we're not going to have an advantage. We do have archers of our own here who can shoot into that blob, so they'll probably get quite a few kills, but they need to get them faster as it stands. Kurokawa is still delayed. As we got closer, more and more units just kept coming over here to engage with his units, and while that's taking pressure off the castle, it actually meant we couldn't win these fights. We only have a few units here, and we can't go through all of these units that kept coming over to delay us, so eventually we started falling back, and it seemed like it was going to be impossible to get to the west gate, especially because our reinforcements for Kurokawa are now coming on the very edge of the map, so far away. Plus, we've now lost the fight in the outer part of the castle. Everything is finally gone and the enemy have control of this area. We inflicted tons of damage to them in exchange, but that may not be enough. They still have plenty of melee units, we don't, and they're now climbing in to engage with our archers in the inner part of the castle. So now it's going to be a race against time. We need our units to arrive right now, and currently they're nowhere close to supporting this situation. Things are starting to look very bad indeed.
My lord! My lord! What are you doing here? I rushed to the western gate, but the troops fell behind. There is no hope, my lord. The same thing is happening to my army. The castle is about to fall. We won't stand a chance of taking it back in this state. It is time to secure our exit, General.
That's impossible, my lord. We can't face down this defeat and carry on. This is our chance to prove our dedication to the Shogun and inspire our men. We must fight to the last and take as many of the rebels with us as we can.
If there's no sense in dying, then there's no honor either. When your lord's life is on the line, that's when you die, not here. My lord, I could not live with such a decision. My men, so many have fallen already. Then avenge them in a way that will matter. One more death. What will that do? We're retreating. We will regroup and send word to Lord Yoshishige. Neither of us will lose this war today. The men inside the castle, they're already dead. Focus and follow my orders.
With the chance to save the castle effectively gone, I'm moving all of my units now towards the edges of the map. From there, they can withdraw. That's my main priority, seeing if we can get these units out of here before the battle ends. The risk is that the enemy will take the capture point and then the battle will automatically be won for them, and units left around the castle will just be auto-resolved in the battle's conclusion and will get destroyed. So we need to get as far away as we can, essentially, with as many units as we can, and all we can hope for the men inside the castle is that they buy us time to make that happen. We're being completely overwhelmed there, so no hope of achieving anything. I put my last few men on the capture point, trying to decap it because the enemy almost captured it at one point, but their archers come in for a simultaneous ranged and melee attack to finish off those dismounted cav. They're probably not going to last very long, and the castle will start to fall. My escape wasn't entirely successful. Some units did get caught by the enemy, so I essentially left them behind as a rear guard to delay the enemy pursuers so everything else could escape. Here, a very interesting matchup. It's samurai versus ninjas. Probably not something we ever did see in a real battlefield, but in this mod it's an option, and it's probably an okay matchup because ninjas aren't actually very good in melee. It's all of their special skills that make them valuable. And it was at about this point in the battle that I realized something. I actually can't withdraw. You're not allowed to withdraw reinforcements in siege battles for some reason. So all I can do is stay near the edge of the map and wait to see what the end of battle auto-resolve gives me. So that's not ideal. There's things coming to an end. A costly enemy victory. We did kill lots of enemies, and we'll confirm here on the results exactly what happened. We lost over 3,000 men, the enemy lost over 6,000, so it was an okay trade, although we'll be losing the castle. The main thing is that we didn't lose loads of the units that were left on the field. Our main two armies under Kurokawa and Kobyukawa both took losses, but they're still standing effectively. A couple of turns of replenishment and they'll be in good condition, and the army we did lose entirely was mostly Ashigaru and reserves who weren't particularly experienced, so overall not such a bad loss. And we will be able to take advantage now of the fact that we did kill 2/3 of the enemy's attacking force in that battle. You can see the army now guarding the castle we just lost is actually quite small, and because the other damaged armies from the coalition factions withdrew to go and restore themselves, now that castle is isolated, so I realise we can probably actually counterattack the very next turn and get back to where we were before. Just confirming there, the Yusa forces have gone back to Iga. We can see more Kitaputake forces approaching, so it would be in our advantage to take out their leading army right now. So we end up with this scenario. Kobyukawa is going to team up with Kurokawa and some reserve cav to completely annihilate this garrison, and the castle will be taken right back for not many losses at all. So if you take those two engagements together, overall things were okay. The enemy losing over 7,000, we lost about half that amount, and we didn't lose the castle in the end. So I think that was okay, all things considered. Nearby, I'm going to continue on with a project I mentioned last time, where Terada is going to take his army up into Echizen to attack the Azai before they make an army and come down from that direction. We'll take winter attrition doing this, but it's worth it because every turn we wait, I'm sure the enemy are spamming units up there, so we need to take them down as soon as possible. Although it does mean Terada won't be able to finish his mission of taking over Tsugutsura's army for now. With that sorted out, I realised that Yoshishige can also make a little move this turn. Because we now know the Yusa forces in that previous battle lost quite a lot of their men, I started thinking we can go after them. First, I garrisoned Zeze with the reserve cavalry army, both to replenish it and to control public order, and then Yoshishige, who was also meant to be going over towards Tsugutsura, is going to be distracted by this. We'll hide in the forest just north of Iga there, and the enemy just have loads of Ashigaru, so it looks like as long as they don't rapidly recruit things, we'll have a decent chance of taking it with just a single army. Now it's time for this turn's naval action. The main thing that happened was the discovery of an invasion fleet coming on just a single bow kaboya. Very risky from the Honma here. I move to attack it and it just sails off into the fog of war. Now I need to attack these Date to get out of their zone of control. So they're way out in the sea attrition zone. I wasn't sure whether I should chase them. I couldn't see them after moving a little bit, but I thought what I'll do is send my non-Nanban ship back towards the coast, because Nanban ships have a lot more movement, so it may be safe to move out here and then still move back this turn. We discovered a Honma ship, but it doesn't have the army on it. Not quite sure what happened. It must be very unlikely that a single Honma ship would just be out there in the attrition zone for no reason, so I don't know what happened. Ended up playing it safe. I'll just have Uno and his fleet wait around here to the west and see if that fleet comes by with the army. We'll have to keep an eye on it. General Terada, I received your message and must unfortunately decline to comply. While I do not doubt the legitimacy of my father's seal or his word, there are situational factors to consider. First of all, I have developed a particular stratagem for victory that relies on the use of Nanban weaponry. Weaponry that is extremely dangerous to all on the battlefield. Its proper use must be taught to my successor carefully. Without this, I would be scorned for my recklessness or even cowardice if I left my army now. Furthermore, there is currently need for 2 commanders on this front. While I keep the Takeda war host in check, another army must capture Echizen from the resurgent Azai. I understand, General, that you have not been given the honor of leading an attack so far. It occurs to me that Father overlooks your skills, as he continues to do with mine. I propose an agreement then. I will meet with you again and arrange the completion of your orders, if you can first guarantee me safety from the north. Combat experience and first choice among the spoils. These things are as essential to the progress of your mission and career as joining me is. Leave no room for criticism in your conduct, General. The advance on Echizen went pretty smoothly. There was a monk that was trying to demoralize us along the way, but he soon learned what happens to enemy agents who try to do anything against us, and that was the end of him. As for the siege, as I hadn't really recruited very much by the time I arrived, so it was good that I did this quickly, and I thought we're probably safe to auto-resolve here. This is a battle where a manual resolve would probably give us a win with virtually no casualties at all, because we have so many archers, but I'm willing to take this not all that good auto-resolve just to save time and move things along a bit faster. Especially since we shouldn't see any more action in this area, because a nice feature of how things have gone politically in the area is that Echizen borders only rebel provinces up here, and those rebels can't attack us. So if the AI doesn't bother going to attack those rebels, as it hasn't done for a very long time, they've been rebels for as long as I've been able to see this area, then we are effectively safe from attack from the north, and there's the confirmation that the prestigious Azai clan are now gone. If you looked very closely during the last narrative scene, you will have noticed there's actually an invasion force that slipped past all of my defences thus far, and I just about catch it. It was just outside of the visual range of one of my fleets there. Very annoying, but anyway, we're going to go after it, and it retreats west. I really should have moved my fleet to the west and then attacked it so it retreated east, so it wasn't going towards its final destination. Now we need to find it. We need to see if we can attack it again, ideally, or at least know where it is so we can keep an eye on it and follow it during the end turn sequence if we can. I eventually discovered it by sacrificing a Bokuboya to the attrition zone. It's out here pretty far out in the attrition area, and unfortunately for us in this situation, I actually can't attack it. I almost can. My fleet can sail up to it, but it can't attack it. However, there is a classic Shogun 2 trick that I thought I'd try here. So we're going to sail up to sit next to it, and now you can keep splitting the fleet. When you split a fleet, it moves it slightly. So we can do that to eventually get all of our ships towards the enemy. I've done this a fair few times to get out of an attrition zone when you're just on the edge of it, but I've never tried it to actually do an offensive maneuver. As it happens though, this doesn't work as I thought. I can't put my ships next to them and then start a battle. I guess it just doesn't work like that. There is one advantage to doing this though. Now the enemy ships are in my zone of control, so they can't move. This means they're guaranteed not to leave, but but all of us are now going to take sea attrition, so our fleets are going to be very heavily damaged in order to keep that enemy locked down. I was also looking for that Honma fleet, of course, but Uno couldn't find it, so I guess it didn't sail over here, but we don't really know how far it would have sailed if it did continue on west from wherever it went last turn. It's hard to say. We'll just, again, have to keep looking for it. This is one naval invasion that is easy to stop, the Goto one, that they keep trying, and I'm just keeping ships nearby to attack their ships every time they start loading them up with troops, and I hope one day to actually find those ships and kill them, but they always sail off probably quite far away into the attrition to the northwest, and I never locate them again. Anyway, back to the front line. There was a Psyker army that moved into our territory, but it was very outnumbered by the stuff we had just hanging around locally, so I decided to auto-resolve those guys out of existence, and that all went fine. And with that done, the balance of power in this region is starting to shift in our favour. The enemy don't have that many armies left. They'll be able to keep recruiting new ones, but if we attack over the next few turns, I think we're going to have some relatively easy gains. First though, I wanted to make the attack I was planning with Yoshishige. The situation is perfect actually, because the enemy have these random Ashigaru units outside the castle. We just attack them, everything gets drawn out into a field battle, so no annoying siege assault to deal with here. We'll just get them all out, kill as much stuff as we can, and hopefully end up with an auto-resolve as long as this battle goes smoothly. I think the problem is that I'm too good. Just as well that I be, since I will soon be shogun. God forbid anything happen to my poor father, of course.
I cannot disagree, my lord. Still, we must employ some strategy here. We are outnumbered.
No, really, we shall just advance and fire at them. The Nanban way of doing things is very simple, yet so productive. There's a beauty to it that can only be the Lord's way of attracting faithful men.
As you say, Lord, I shall prepare the matchlocks.
A shame that so many people see firearms as some kind of witchcraft. They say that the barbarian Prince Tsugutsura must be a genius to have employed them so heavily. And now he battles to ensure no one else gets their hands on them, for his lies would fall apart if the people saw what I could do with them. I shall have them. I shall have God's word translated into the sound of cannon fire, so that it can be cast out across the land like the voice of heaven itself.
My lord, the enemy are in range and the gunners await orders.
Shoot! I mean, is it really that hard to work out? As I say, perhaps the problem is just that I'm too good. After sneakily taking out the enemy commander right at the start of the fight, I moved my army to intercept the enemy's reinforcements, ignoring their initial force, and as you can see, I simply sat back and fired into the mass of enemy troops. Some of them turned to engage us, mostly ranged units. They were quite kind in that they fired their arrows over the top of my gun troops into the less valuable archers behind, so that's very good. We'll just continue firing them. What I thought was that the enemy army would engage me here and we'd have a little battle, but it didn't really seem to go that way. Their melee troops are ignoring what's going on and appear to be just running straight for the original army, which is off on a hill to the west. Because of that, they ended up leaving behind all of the ranged units that had started engaging me, and so my cav just come in to completely destroy them. That's going to be an easy melee with tons of Ashigaru to slaughter. And when a few of the enemy's melee troops came back to try and support them, it was too late really. We can use our ranged units to just cut them apart. Those Naginata Ashigaru didn't make it in time, and other units still just running away. So looks like the enemy really want to form up over there, and I'm not going to be threatened without flanking really here. And again, this unit looks like it's going to help the archers, but we can now just shoot it while it's on the way and probably defeat it pretty easily. My cavalry defeated most of the enemy archers, but a couple of units ended up holding out for quite a long time, and they even inflicted quite a few casualties on us, so I eventually disengaged there and sent in my Tanegashima samurai for a charge just because they were close by. With the enemy now damaged, they simply routed with this new threat arriving, and that was the end of that.
So we've inflicted substantial damage on the enemy's reinforcement army. Some of it escaped, and of course their original army's still up here, most of it being hidden at the moment. So now I just needed to reform and wander over to see what we could do. We still have the ranged advantage, and we can use that right away. There was one unit of Ashigaru archers standing on its own that wanted to have a skirmish with us. That's fine by us. We managed to get most of our gunners to engage them, and even some of our archers, our samurai archers, have longer range than Ashigaru ones, so they can shoot from behind the gunners to add to the casualties here. And the gunners even killed a few of the enemy's melee troops in the background hiding in the trees. So they were soon gone. There was another unit of archers that we managed to do pretty much the same thing to. They're in cover this time, so a bit less effective, but still they're not going to do anything. The casualties we take from their return fire will be negligible. This time though, the attack actually prompted the enemy to try and react to this. One unit's going to go after my cavalry sitting off to the flank. We'll just kite them away, that's all fine, while the rest of their army rushes towards us, and with our melee troops still unused effectively, this shouldn't be too much of a problem. I deployed my heavy samurai around to the right flank to intercept some enemy Ashigaru. They'll just completely destroy them. More of them will attack the edge of the enemy's central group. And this fight isn't going to last very long. A couple of the matchups might be okay. We do have lots of generic Yari Ashigaru here ourselves, but the enemy's morale is way too low to actually engage us, and you can see they start routing all over the place just after things get started. Now I am going to have to chase them down. Since most of the units were reinforcements, we want to annihilate them so that the castle left in the end is as empty as possible. Here's what we ended up with. We didn't get everyone, but we got most of them, and the losses on our side were far lower, of course. Now we just need to do the auto-resolve. It wasn't actually as far in our favour as I expected it to be, but it doesn't really matter. We're certain to win here. So that's going to be Iga captured and the Yusa clan destroyed. Another clan removed from the coalition, and perhaps more importantly in game terms, another clan that gets a free cheat income removed, so this one region will no longer be supporting up to 2 armies against us. So we'll occupy the place and get it repaired up. A nice thing about Iga is that it has buildings that allow you to recruit superior ninja, so we'll take advantage of that because we do need extra spies in the area at the moment. First though, destroying the siege workshops that virtually every small clan seems to obsess over having in their capital for whatever reason. I think the AI in this mod has a strange fixation on siege buildings. Now, as I said, I wanted to see if we could get any more offensive opportunities this turn. I thought Kobyukawa could advance and rapidly take this castle, but unfortunately that Kitapitake army in the background was in reinforcement range. This battle is perfectly winnable. We could intercept the Kitapitake separately and then attack the castle, but there was no point in doing it. I thought we can probably get an easier battle in the future. Let's just go back. I couldn't, though, get back to my territory, so I'm going to take attrition. Well, I would do if it wasn't for the trick that I displayed earlier coming in handy once again. We can separate these armies, putting most of our force in the replenishment zone and out of the attrition zone, so that's very nice. Now the Saika actually come and make another attack against Osaka Castle, and given what we saw last time, I thought if we resolve this manually, the Taoists will probably kill most of the enemy army and we'll get this for virtually no casualties. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and perhaps bring you a few highlights from that in the next part, not that it's going to be particularly important. And then with this Saika army gone, the opportunity for a counterattack will really be on the table. The Azai and the Yusa were absorbed into the Otomo domain. Now only the Saika, hosts of their own distrusted religious identity, stood to defend the strategically vital Kii Peninsula, a region that forced the Otomo to spread their forces out over a vast area, as long as it was under coalition control. Plans to mount serious opposition in the Owari Mino region were accelerated, with the rumoured approach of the Takeda main force keeping the Otomo locked in their castles for now. And all the while at sea, more armies sailed for the decreasingly patrolled Otomo shoreline. That is all for now. Thank you very much for watching, and special thanks as always to the Officially Devin patrons. We'll go on the offensive and push the front line forwards, but a failing in our defensive strategy is going to leave us with a bit of trouble in the next episode of Barbarian Masters.